Hello and welcome to episode number 73 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, spinning, basically all of the fiber crafts that I feel like. Well, it's been a very long time since the last episode, so thank you guys for coming back after all this time. I'm very happy to finally find a little bit of time to share what I've been up to again with you guys, because I've missed the contact with you guys. So thank you for all your lovely messages and comments on last episode. I do kind of feel ashamed for the last episode because I was pretty upset because our wedding was kind of fallen apart, or kind of like very much not like we expected, and well, I guess in hindsight, basically everyone's wedding that was planned for 2020 went way off. So anyway, I couldn't have known that at the time. So and I do appreciate that all of the other people who see their weddings get messed up probably struggle with that situation as well. So. But let me quickly explain to you why I have been on a hiatus for so long. Well, it's probably an easy guess. Last time I talked to you guys was when I was still heavily pregnant, and I'm no longer pregnant. I had a healthy baby boy on March 3, which is one day before my own birthday, and I'm really happy that he came one day before my own birthday, because I don't think that it's fun to share your birthday with your mother. So I'm happy that we have separate birthdays for the rest of our lives. Anyway, giving birth, however, was slightly complicated. So our boy Sven, he was in breech position, so he came butt first instead of head first. Which we knew from when I was in the hospital when he tried to be born early. And from that moment I've had a lot of checkups in the hospital because he was in the wrong position, which means that your medical level goes skyrocketing. So that wasn't a very fun time for me. Also, it meant that labor went very, very slowly, and after over 24 hours without sufficient progress, it was decided that I had to have a C-section. So yes, that took a little bit longer to recover from, I guess. But on the other hand, I'm pretty surprised how quickly that all went by, because I feel very much healthy again, and I haven't felt as healthy actually in months, because pregnancy was quite heavy on me. Anyway, let's get into the regular podcast content, because I guess you're here first of all to hear me talk about what I've been up to crafting wise. So let's first start with a quick say of what I'm wearing. I'm wearing an Agnes top, which is a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. I have no clue who has designed this fabric, but I've sewn this shirt myself, and I did so a long time ago, so I won't go into too much detail about that. So let's get into what I've been up to, and you guys, I've been up to a lot. I'm kind of overwhelmed with everything that's around me here, and also kind of watching our baby boy, who is currently playing in his playpen in the living room. But he can start crying any moment, because he's a baby and they can't pretty much take care of themselves, so I might have to run up any minute now. Now, I think on last episode I had started working on this project, which is his blanket, and it's finished now. It was finished, I think, on his due date, which was 4 days before he was actually born. And I'm quite happy with it. And it turned out pretty large. Entrelac is always a bit tricky in terms of how much it's going to stretch once you block it, but it's a pretty sizable blanket, I think. We have to fold it double twice to fit it on our baby's bed, but that means that it will probably stay or continue to fit for a long time still. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. I did not follow a pattern. I have worked quite a lot of Entrelac before. Basically, I cast on a bunch of triangles. I think I started on this end with the white triangles here, and from there I added in purple squares and just went through the rainbow twice, and then ended with a series of white triangles at the upper end. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's pretty large, so it's kind of difficult to show you guys. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. And I had some leftovers from this blanket, and I felt like that would be sad not to use them. I used like 1.5 skein of each color, I believe. Maybe it was 2.5 skeins of each color. I don't know. At least I had some leftovers of all the colors, and I decided I could make another rainbow baby blanket, and this one is a little bit smaller. And I made this the day after the due date, when labor was still not showing any signs of coming up. And I made this one on the knitting machine that I have inherited from my grandma. And yeah, I weighed the leftover bits that I had on a scale that is like 2 digits precise behind the decimal sign, so a very precise scale. And I had this much left over of the red, so I was playing yarn chicken with this one, and yeah, I ended up another blanket. And I think there were 2 more colors on which I had less than a gram of leftover, so I was pretty happy about that. Some skeins had been slightly bigger, so I believe I have pretty much left over of the green and the blue still, but the red definitely was the one that I had the shortest yardage on, and I had to calculate how much yarn I had of the white to decide how big the stripes in between were going to be. But this is a little blanket that we use in the stroller for our baby, although we do not use our stroller that much because, you know, we're kind of not allowed to go anywhere. So he sleeps in the stroller when he's in the living room. And he has his bed on our bedroom, and this was supposed to be the baby room, but it turned out to be a kind of a laundry room, because this is where we currently dry most of our laundry, and the plan is still that he will move here at some point, but for now we still feel like yeah, we want to keep him very close to us. Back from a little break. Yeah, living with a baby means that you get interrupted all the time. Anyway, so I think I was about to tell you guys about this project that I was working on, I think during the last podcast episode, and it's a boxing or a transport bag for a baby. I think Sven will hardly fit in it anymore since he's grown so much since he was born, but it fit him quite well relatively soon after birth, and it's halfway May and it's probably too warm for him anyway at this point. So yeah, he was born pretty much at the end of winter, and it's pretty warm and dry actually. We've had some bushfires in the area. Anyway, not affected, so except for the smell one day. Anyway, so I finished this boxing bag, and it's inspired by a Swedish pattern that I had bought several years ago, and I had already knit one for a friend of mine, but I have modified the pattern. I have invented I made up the colorwork design myself. So the bears is 100% me doing that. It's not as neat where I had to knit the colorwork back and forth. That's not as neat. It looks a lot nicer in the bottom area, but still it's a merino yarn, and a 3-ply, and I think colorwork typically looks better with more rustic 2-ply yarns, but still, yeah, it was pretty adorable. I'm sure that that I haven't shown you this little project that goes along with it, a tiny little hat that I also knit to go with the boxing bag. And the original pattern came with like a attached hat type thing, but I decided to leave that for the pattern because I thought if a baby wants to move around their head, little did I know that babies at that age hardly can, I didn't want them to look like at the inside of their head, so I decided to make a separate little hat. And I was working on this when we went to the checkup in the hospital, the last one we had, because we had to go to the hospital plenty of times because, you know, the baby was in breech position. Ironically, the waters broke on the way back from the hospital, so we got home, we had to pack our our luggage and go right back to the hospital for birth. Anyway, yes, but I was still working on this during labor, so I kind of finished the hat. I was pretty close to finishing it during labor, and from that moment I have not knit that much anymore. Anyway, so yeah, I finished the hat in the hospital, and he came home in this little suit. He was also wearing his Marius sweater. I did post a picture of him on Instagram, so those of you who follow me on Instagram may have seen my son, or a picture of my son there. Yeah, but I'm not planning on sharing too much of him, since I feel like he is entitled to a little bit of privacy, and I don't want, you know, most of his life to already be online before he can even have a say in it. So there's some things that I feel like I can share, and some things that I will simply not share. I think I had already made this project, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because it is related to a lot of the projects that I've knitted since Sven was born. So I had made this diaper cover. When you have last seen it, it was very much more bright. That has nothing to do with the yarn itself. It's basically a lot to do with how much I've abused it. It's also pretty much felted. That's on purpose, so it's not a bad thing about the yarn. I specifically chose this yarn because it is feltable and because you can lose the stitch definition and create a more watertight type thing for a diaper cover. But I am not really happy with this diaper cover type because, well, for the simple reason that it hardly covers its diapers. So we are using cloth diapers, and then we put over lanolized wool diaper covers, and because of the lanolin, the water or pee gets absorbed in a cotton diaper that's like right around his bum, and the lanolin doesn't absorb the water as much as it repels it, so the water tries to spread as much as it can within the diaper before it spreads outwards to the clothes that he wears over his diaper cover. But this unfortunately does not cover his diaper nearly enough. So I have been improvising, and I have made a whole series of diaper covers since. So yeah, here is my second attempt at a diaper cover. So it's, well, you can see the similarities, but it's a lot wider. So this part was just way too slim. So next version had a wider part. It still looks like there's increases here, but that's in fact not the case. I did not increase anymore here. It's just how it's stretched through use that it looks like it gets wider again after it gets smaller. So the basic shape is still kind of there, but and this was a lot better in use, but there was still room for some improvement. And I can't show you the next example from the line because Sven is currently wearing it. So I'm not going to leave him sleeping without the diaper cover, because that's probably going to mean having to clean up all of his bed, which is not something that I particularly look forward to, because I have to do that often enough. Anyway, so here is the, well, not the next part, but the one that came afterwards. This one is I think even slightly wider, just a little bit wider, and especially this bit is a bit longer. You can also see that there's 3 buttons that are somewhat more widely spaced out. Here there in the original version there were 2 buttons. I already increased it to 3 buttons on this version, but I did increase the length slightly for the next version, and this size basically is our current favorite diaper cover, but I have been trying some other things as well. All of these diaper covers, by the way, are knit out of Entrelac warm schap, so that's BFL DK yarn, non-superwash, from Dutch indie dyer. All of these colors are. This is basically how bright this diaper cover was. This is a little bit of leftovers that I had lying around, and I had also made similar diaper covers in this color, and yeah, I ran out of the yarn out of this color, because the other diaper cover that Sven is currently wearing is all in this color. I decided to just knit up as much of the leftovers that I had, because I do really enjoy the type of yarn, and yeah, I think it's a bit of fun colors as well, and yeah, it's a diaper cover. It goes under his clothes, so hardly anyone sees it. So if it's a bit funky and extreme, who cares? Basically, it's just me and his daddy that's going to see it. Interruptions again. The husband is home by now, or actually he's not home anymore. He's out on a walk. We are allowed to go for tiny walks through our neighborhood during this lockdown situation. So yeah, he is out with baby, so I have the home to myself, which gives me some more peace and quiet for podcasting. Anyway, I was talking to you about this experiment. Yes, I was talking about this diaper cover, and I made this on the knitting machine. So I knit the ribbing by hand and then transferred it to the machine, and I actually learned how to do decreases on the knitting machine, which was an interesting process. I must say it was a bit tedious, and I think it's not something that I enjoy doing this far out of the edge of the work. So basically all of the stitches, they are on tiny hooks, and all of the stitches that are to the outside of the stitches that you want to knit together, you have to transfer by hand to one stitch more into the direction of where you decrease the stitch. So the closer the decrease is to the edge, the easier this becomes, because you just have to move over less stitches. Anyway, so this project unfortunately is a bit too slim for Sven at this moment. He is too wide to fit in it, so I think this is just a size that doesn't really fit any baby, because he's not that big yet. Anyway, yeah, nice attempt, but not really useful, unfortunately. But hey, I did learn a new skill on the knitting machine, so that's very useful. And also I know that I won't really save time doing this on a knitting machine. So that's my learning curve on the knitting machine. And then I have also made another version of the diaper cover, which is not really dry yet. This is my most recent knit, and this one is, well, I mattress seam it together on the front. You can barely see it after all the abusing that I've done, but there's one garter ridge that's actually a bit strange at this moment, a bit double here, so where I seamed the front to the back side, yeah, I'm hoping that this will also work quite well. So you can obviously see that this is like more of a one pen kind of thing without it's without the buttons, the buttonholes. So we'll see if this works for us or if it doesn't. I think it's also slightly bigger than the other diaper covers that we had. It's also a bit fatty because it's impregnated with the lanolin. So that's it for my diaper cover adventures. I have some other projects as well, luckily, although they are mostly baby related because, you know, as a new mom, baby is kind of on my brain. In the hospital after birth, I started my one project that wasn't baby related, and that's this pair of black socks, which yes, I know it's completely not very exciting. It's plain black sock. The yarn is very nice to work with, though. It has a small percentage of cashmere in it. I think this is the first time that I'm working with sock yarn that has cashmere in it. I know my wedding dress had some cashmere in it. But yeah, it's very nice and soft. And these socks are actually meant to be for my husband. So he plays the trumpet, and when he is in a concert, he is supposed to wear black socks with his black suits and everything. So, well, he obviously has some store-bought black socks, but he really likes wearing knitted socks. So he asked me to knit a pair of black socks for him, and I said, yes, okay, I will knit you a pair of black socks. I've had a lot of comments about why would you knit black. Black socks are very unexciting, and knitting with more colors is much more fun, but I feel like this would be useful. It has a clear goal to me, and most of the time when I'm knitting, I'm basically watching something else, so I don't really need to watch what I'm knitting, so I don't care too much that it's just one color. I am still on the first sock, though. It's pretty close to the point where I am going to add the ribbing. I knit my socks toe up. I have a heel flap and gusset and a short row heel combined. I do have a knitting pattern on Ravelry for how I knit my socks, but yeah, it's not really anything particularly special, I think. Anyway, so I am still on the first sock. I must admit that it's not really helping that all of the concerts have been cancelled for the foreseeable future, and that it's not really clear when my husband is ever going to be in a concert again. So yeah, that's not really a great motivator to finish this project. Also, I do typically have these small snippets of time, and diaper covers help us right now, so they are higher on our priority list than socks for concerts that are not going to happen for the foreseeable future. So, well, I think that's it for the knitting content, but I have not only been knitting recently. So I really felt like starting to work on a birth tile. I don't know if this is a thing in, well, other countries, and I'm not really sure it's that much of a thing anymore in the Netherlands, but there are these embroidered or cross-stitch, I should say. Possibly some people might think this is not really embroidery, but I started a cross-stitch project that is going to state Sven's name here and his date of birth and things like that, and just going to be a playful picture. So I have an example of what it's going to look like when it's finished. It has a boy and a girl color set, so I'm making it in the blue version for Sven, and I'm not sure if I would have made it in the pink version if we had a girl. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so I'm basically making this and obviously making it relevant for our son. And I have been enjoying stitching a little bit, although it is a process that takes a long time. It's a slow going. Sometimes I wonder why I picked such a big cross stitch project for his birth style, but then again, it looked very cute, so I had to have it, and I'm slowly stitching my way through it. Also, not very high on the priority list, I must admit, because you know, the knitting or the sewing that is for baby are things that we can use right away, and this is, well, going to be some wall decoration, so not as important. Still, at least as much fun. At this point, I realize at this moment I am very much a product knitter. I do really enjoy the process of knitting or sewing or basically any fiber craft, but there is an urgency to make things, and yeah, that makes me want to prioritize the projects that are immediately useful. And then there is a whole set of things that I have been sewing for baby. I can't remember the order of things exactly, but I think one of the first things that I made for our baby after the birth were some of these rompers. So I made one in a familiar fabric. You can see that the fabric isn't very nice anymore. That's because it's been washed hot. Somehow there seems to be a curse on this fabric. We have 2 pairs of pants and this romper out of the leftover fabric from my maternity dress, and somehow our son has been pooping next to his diaper and getting his clothes all dirty, but it's always been in this fabric. It hasn't happened a single time in any of the other garments that we have, so I don't know what kind of curse is on this fabric, but it always goes wrong when he's wearing this. This was my first project on which I have been adding these kind of snaps, and it's been an interesting adventure. So I had ordered these closure type things, snaps I'd say, and they come with a little plastic thing, and you have to use a hammer and force these things on. Well, it didn't work. I tried it on several positions, so you can see that they are not, well, there are tiny holes next to it, and there's an even bigger hole here in the fabric because I tried several different positions, and I would just bend the snaps and it wouldn't work. So I ordered a device that is specifically made for it, so at least you always snap it on straight, so you can't lose material because you're not placing it perfectly straight on top of each other, the front end and the back end, because you basically still hammer the front and the back into each other here. Anyway, I'm not strong enough to like clamp it down sufficiently, so I have to ask my husband every time to go after all of these snaps every time I add them to a garment, which is kind of annoying, but it makes him feel useful. So that's it. That's a plus side. He also helps making baby garments now. So yeah, I've made a romper in this fabric. I've made 2 of those rompers in this fabric. Sven is wearing the other one, but I thought it would be nice to podcast while he was wearing the other one, so I can still show you what it looks like, because there's 2 that are basically the same. So yeah, those are both from leftovers of my maternity dresses. And I have also been sewing shirts for him. Here's an example of a shirt that I have been sewing for him with a fabric that might be slightly less familiar. I'm not sure if I've ever shown it as a part of a fabric haul, but yeah, I am also making these long sleeve shirts for him. This shirt is slightly short for him. It's like a little bit cropped, so I make him larger next time, but he's also growing out of this size already. This is supposed to fit 2 to 4 months. He's 2.5 months and he's already starting to grow out of this size. So that's why I'm also sewing pants that are one size up. And yet again, a familiar fabric, I guess. So pants that are slightly bigger. I like the pants with the feet attached because it just saves time when you're changing diapers. You don't also have to put on and off socks, basically. Not that it's that much of an effort, but I have hardly used any socks for the baby, partially because I feel like he would lose them too quickly, which is not at all true for most of the knitted socks. He doesn't lose them as quickly, but it's mostly with the changing that you want to keep the socks clean, and to be sure that they stay clean, you have to take them off, and then you have to put them on again, and it's just not necessary if you use pants that already have the feet attached. So I prefer this type of pants for now, that he can't walk yet. So I think that's a small selection of the clothes that I have been sewing for him. There are more clothes that I have been sewing for him, but a lot of them end up being in the laundry a lot of the time. So yeah, they're not always available to show you on the podcast. And then there is one more project that I would like to share, and that's a project for myself. It's a sewing project, but it's still baby related because it's a sleeveless shirt, as you can probably see in, well, have we seen this fabric before? Well, I guess if you've been watching this show, then yes, you have seen it before. And it's basically a pattern that I have used before, but I have kind of modified it. Basically, I cut open the front bit to a certain depth so that I can open it, which is nice when I'm nursing my son. It means that I don't have to fully uncover myself. I can just open the front flaps, which is, well, nice if you want to stay covered, or if you want to keep your belly covered during the nursing. I know that I could probably use more blouses and things like that, but I don't really wear that many blouses, or I don't have that many blouses that currently fit me because I gained a little bit too much weight during my pregnancy, and I am losing weight again, and it's pretty rapidly actually, but I still don't fit in all of my normal clothes. So I'm not too concerned about that, but it just means that I don't fit the clothes that I have that I could button up. So yeah, it's nice to stay warm while you're nursing your child. So I made one shirt like this. I'm not really happy with how the front turned out. Like when I'm wearing it, it's fine, but if you look at this, it's not very neat. I just cut it open and folded the fabric over several times. I think if I were to make this shirt again, I would probably add a seam at this area and just have two pieces that are slightly overlapping here. I think that would look better. And I think that's everything that I have to share with you. I think from now on I will continue to try podcasting slightly more regularly than I have been doing these past months, but I don't know how frequent it's going to be. I feel like once a month is probably more realistic than once a week, what my schedule used to be long ago before I got pregnant and things got in the way of podcasting. But we will have to see how it goes. My maternity leave is over. I have to get back to studying now. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm not sure how often I will have the time to go back to podcasting. I'm hoping that at some point our baby will decide that he does want to sleep for long and predictable amounts of time, but unfortunately at this point he still wakes us up like 3 times every night, and I have never been so sleep deprived. Maybe, just maybe, he will let us sleep a bit more in the future, and then things might become easier. Or if he wants to go to sleep earlier in the evening, I don't know. Something's probably going to change in the schedule because it's always changing, but I'm not going to do any predictions about that. Just that once a week is probably not going to be realistic, both because I wouldn't have time to podcast that often, and because I probably wouldn't have any content to share with you, because I hardly have time to make anything in a week's time. Because I feel like I have shown you guys a lot of projects this week, but they are all very small projects and made over a very long time period. So maybe I finished like 1 project a week or something like that. I feel like that's not enough content for me to go through the process of making a podcast episode. Anyway, it has been lovely to talk to you guys again, and it's also been very weird because I'm completely out of it. But yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely, let's say, month, lovely time, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!